It's your future with Joyce Gioia. Want to know what's coming and how to prepare for it? This show is for you. Armed with this information and these insights, our host Joyce Gioia will help you make better decisions both personally and professionally. Joyce will cover all the trends, from social to economic, to workforce, and more. You will have a chance to get your questions answered in a segment we call, I'm Glad You Asked. This is one show you can't afford to miss. Now on Futures Television. It's your future with Joyce Gioia.
Welcome to It's Your Future with Joyce Gioia, where we spotlight visionaries shaping the world of tomorrow. Today, we're thrilled to introduce David Litwyn, a true modern Renaissance man, and we are talking about the future of music. David is a branding and AI innovator whose groundbreaking endeavors include founding Detail AI, modeling agency, and Flair AI Radio. He's also transforming personal creativity through his unique song development company, Flair Songscape. A prolific author, sought-after consultant, and CEO of a world-class design firm, David's expertise spans decades of leading Fortune 500 companies and pioneering the use of AI in creative industries. Join us as we explore David's inspiring journey and his exciting insights into the AI-powered future. It's Your Future, featuring American Futures Joyce Gioia, broadcast on Futures Television via fuji.tv every Tuesday and Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific. You can also find all of the show episodes on fuji.tv on the video on demand session. Access to this show is always free. You can find it on fuji.tv, on Roku TV, on Apple TV, and on Fire TV. You can download the app on Google Play and on the Apple App Store. Of course, you can watch this show on fuji.tv, our media player. All righty, so without further ado, let's welcome the star of the show, Joyce Gioia. How are you doing today, Joyce?
Great to be with you again, Rob. Great to be here. And especially great because I love my friend, David Litwyn. He's just so creative and so innovative, and he's such a leading edge voice for what is happening today on the bleeding edge of technology, especially in music, and for tomorrow. And that's why I'm looking forward to this time to talk with him.
And I know there are a few surprises. So before we get started, let's say a few words about our guest. All righty. So David Litwyn is a trailblazer in branding, design, and artificial intelligence. And with over 3 decades of experience, he has collaborated with Fortune 500 companies like Hewlett-Packard, IBM, and Sony. So driving innovation and growth through his proprietary needs-based analysis system. As the CEO of the world-ranked Pure Fusion Media, David's work is renowned for its strategic impact and visual excellence. An accomplished author of 6 books and a sought-after speaker, David is also a pioneer in the AI landscape, founding Detail AI modeling agency and Flair AI Radio. His articles on Midjourney and other AI strategies have garnered tens of thousands of views, cementing his reputation as a forward-thinking leader. Beyond AI, he transforms poetry and ideas into custom songs through Flair Songscape. David lives in sunny Phoenix with his wife and 2 daughters, embodying a modern Renaissance man's spirit of creativity, strategy, and innovation. So without further ado, let's welcome David to the show. Hello, David.
Hello. It is a pleasure to be here.
It's really,
It's a pleasure to be with you, especially, Joyce. Absolutely. So thank you, Ram, for the great introduction.
Thanks, David. I just to let you all know, I met David when I was looking for someone to do the cover of my book, Experience Rules. And not only did David do the cover of the book, but now it's the logo of the show and it's my website, which, by the way, shameless plug, joycegioia.com. And I just love David's work. But David's work is much more than just 2-dimensional, because David has gone into using AI for modeling. He's created a modeling agency, and David has created a a part of his business that actually writes songs for people, and the music, and there's much more, and we're going to get to all of it. So David, would you please tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be who you are today? And just understand that I know that we could take a whole hour learning that, but
Yeah.
just give us the top line.
I'll be
Please.
super brief. First of all, I appreciate you calling me the modern Renaissance man. I hold that moniker very highly. I've been a creative for 35 years, one of the things that Ram just said. So I have been running design agencies almost that whole period of time. About 2 years ago, I came to the understanding of, or into Midjourney as an AI platform, and began to start using it to create. I had a portrait company, so I started using it for some portrait work and some other things that I was doing, and just fell in love with the whole process. About 2 or 3 months later, I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to write about this on Medium. Started writing about it on Medium, garnered a lot of responses, a lot of reputation there. Said, okay, well, that's not enough. Let's create some courses. So I jumped onto Udemy, not knowing how to do that, learned it, got on Udemy, started creating courses on Udemy for AI kind of photorealism and modeling strategies. That garnered 800 students in the first 6 months, so we were off to the races. In the process of all of that, I was able to, in 2 years ago, I was going to hire 4 more people for my company using platforms like, and obviously everybody knows about ChatGPT and other platforms like Midjourney. I was able to there was no longer a need for those 4 employees because things were so productive that I was just, I got to the point where I was too fast. And so I just slowed myself down a little bit, literally. But about 3 months ago, I was reading on a platform called Substack about a new development called Suno, which is a AI song generator. Now, having now worked with about 10 to 15 different AI platforms, I said, well, what's Suno? So I jumped on Suno, and 25 years ago, I wrote a number of songs, had some interest in Nashville, let it go for all the other things that I've talked about, and plugged one of my songs into Suno and was blown away at the quality of what came out. And I had originally demoed that song for about $600 back in the day, and a number of other songs for probably about $2,000 to $3,000, as most people who plug songs recognize and spend. And literally 2 minutes later, this song is produced, and it's better than any demo that I'd ever paid for. Fell in love with it again. So at that point, started taking all of my songs and retrofitting them, and then fell in love with songwriting again. Wrote 7 to 8 more songs. In the process, realized there's something bigger here, and created Flare Songscapes, which is basically taking people's ideas and assimilating them into AI and creating music for them. So whether that's for a daddy-daughter dance at a wedding, or in the case for you, a love poem that you wrote years ago, or that was written for you years ago.
Yes, my husband wrote it for me.
That began the journey into what was next, which was, let's help other people that are writing songs, because there wasn't really a network for those people apart from like Facebook groups. So I started Flare AI Radio. And Flare AI Radio is essentially an AI radio station.
Well, wait a minute, time out. You jumped from creating songs for people to Flare AI Radio. There is a company that creates songs, that you're creating songs for people. It's called Songscape, right?
Flare Songscapes, correct. Yes. So that was the transition between Songscapes and Flare AI Radio, was kind of the next level of what I was doing. So we opened it up for the general population to basically have a platform, a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week platform to hear AI music. And
okay, so wait a minute. I have to slow you down.
Yeah.
We want to give people an opportunity to hear your radio station. So what is the URL for that radio station?
That is flare-airadio.com.
Flare-airadio.com. Okay, I've just given it to our producer, and he'll run it in the, there we go.
There we go.
See, okay, good.
Miracle of technology.
Okay, great. Excellent. And the that radio station has music from not just you, right?
Oh, absolutely. No, it is
But
all over
other
the world.
people.
In fact, in the last 2 weeks, we've been on every nation but about five, and Greenland for some reason. But every nation but five around the world has gone on
Including
that station,
Greenland.
including, well, Greenland
Including.
hasn't. I don't know
Oh,
why
okay.
Greenland doesn't like us, but yeah,
Well, if you've ever been to Greenland, you would understand why it
I guess
hasn't.
so. That could definitely be the case. So yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty primitive, actually. Greenland is,
yeah,
surprisingly so. The that actually, this whole radio thing actually came on the heels of something else. And I know that we're focusing today on the future of music, but I didn't want to not talk about something that you and I were talking about. You do a lot of graphic design for your clients, your national and international clients, and sometimes you needed models, but instead of having them hire expensive models, you just created AI models. How brilliant is that? And you have an entire now modeling agency, yeah, right?
correct.
With all kinds of different faces and figures, and
Sure.
they're really beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
The models are very attractive, but I know that you created that on purpose.
Right, right. What I wanted to do was basically, there's a lot of companies out there that can't afford. So let's say you're a small sportswear line. You can't afford to have a supermodel come in and wear clothing for your line, or really ultimately get great shots for under about 20, 30, $40,000, especially if you were to go on a photo shoot. Like let's say you were going to Ibiza, or you were going to, you know, anywhere in Europe, it's going to cost you 30, 40 to $100,000 for that shoot. Well, we thought,
Sure.
well, those are the people that we wanted to target, was the people who wanted really high end modeling shots that couldn't afford it any other way. And so we basically would take their garments, do modifications and use AI and create now now we have our models wearing their garments, and they can put these up on their site. So it's detailmodels.com if anybody wants to take a look at that. If I can see that at the bottom
Okay.
of the screen.
Detailmodels.com. There we go.
Yep, perfect. So, and yeah, that was
Okay.
just another passion project. So, one of the things that I always say is that, people are worried about AI from the standpoint of like, oh, is AI going to take my job? Am I going to be out of a career? And the way that I say it is AI probably won't take your job, but someone who knows AI could. And so the recognition is learn this stuff, be proficient at something, because I never had a modeling agency. I don't know necessarily the right statements to put the person in the right pose. Someone who owns an agency or someone who knows how to do that does. You could potentially supplant what I'm doing, but since nobody's doing it, we're dominating the space.
Got it. Got it. And you've done beauty products, and you've done clothing, right?
Right,
What
correct.
other kinds of clients do you have for that?
So we've done, we had a football franchise actually that was interested in having us do some garment work for them. So we've done that. And
Love it.
yeah, it's basically anyone who wants their product in a really high class, high end way. And so we can create not only the kind of the lifestyle shots, but also the shots that go on from the standpoint of like just the general store garments that somebody's wearing. So, it's the full capability of that. So, I look at it from the standpoint too of there's always a push and pull. There's always a yin yang when it comes to AI. And so people are saying, well, you're taking away from the photographers, you're taking away from the models. Well, in many cases as well, you're also taking away from the dangerous side of the modeling industry, which is the situation where people are abused in modeling, or people are, they're told, no, you're gonna have to lose 10 pounds, and they become bulimic. It's pushing the agents, it's pushing the industry to a different standard. And we're just trying to come alongside that and recognize that it's like, this is possible. Therefore, maybe some of that other stuff gets scrapped in the process.
That's interesting. Okay, so I'm going to bring you back now to music, because
Sure.
now you have an even more exciting project that you're beginning to work on called Euphorics. And for those is the website up yet?
The website is not up. We're
Not
keeping
up.
it fairly tight and under the vest for now, because this is so revolutionary. I can discuss it obviously a little bit, but I'll be slightly nebulous.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay, so what happened with Euphorics is I had a dear friend of mine. He's a neuroscientist, and he said to me, he said, David, I love what you're doing with music. You're creating these amazing songs using AI to create country songs and rap songs and rock songs and all of that. But why don't you use AI to create something totally new and completely disruptive and relevant? And he said, think about it from the standpoint of what happened in the days of the Dark Ages when we moved into the Impressionist era of art, and how they began to use light and this whole exploration of something new. And then all of a sudden, other artists jumped in and started creating in the same genre. He said, what if you created a whole new genre of music? And I said, well, that's fascinating. I said, that I'll jump on. I have 20 things in my quote unquote garden, if you will, my metaphorical garden of ideas. And that wasn't one I was expecting. So instead of putting it in the garden, I just created a whole new garden. And essentially, that basically what we do is we create music. What I wanted to do is I wanted to create a genre that had efficacy, that actually improved the lives of the people who were listening to it. And I knew that the place that was most important for that was neurology, and dealing with people's mental situations and struggles. And so mental health, absolutely, just their mental health. So we basically created a entirely new genre, which is kind of a combination of world, tribal, house, trance, dance, just this whole mix of just an amazing hybrid of music that basically is run through kind of mantra-driven lyrics. And so not only are you getting this incredibly calm, receptive music into your body, but your mind is filled with these positive mantras in the process. And we are very excited about where this is going. I will say we are looking for science. We are moving in the process of scientific grounding for this now, and kind of general data that we can then take. That's why this is still somewhat a little bit under wraps, but that we can take and actually produce. When I originally came up with the idea, I thought, well, this would be a great 1 hour show segment on Flare AI Radio. And I realized how much bigger this is and how much impact we can make on people. And it's beautiful stuff. So, yeah.
So actually, when I think about what I'm thinking that you're looking at, there are more than just people who have, for instance, depression or uh, things like OCDC or other mental
Anxiety,
issues.
yeah,
Right.
ADHD.
Just ordinary people could possibly use euphorics in a different way, right?
100%, absolutely. So I actually produced a song today called "Released," and it is a beautiful 5-minute sink you down. Basically bring your anxiety, your heart rate down. I was just testing it out with some people today already, and just the opportunity there to just get a 5-minute hit, if you will, of this kind of musical songscape that literally can reduce that anxiety. We know that music has the capacity to do that already, so that's just a given. What we're trying to do now is say, what if we, how do we create it in such a way where we're using certain notes, we're using certain hertz, we're using certain beats per minute. This is where kind of the future of all this is. And so I call it songscape therapy, where we're literally trying to create a therapeutic response to this music that is also incredibly viral and catchy. but it doesn't, you can't necessarily quantify it in any particular genre. You're not listening to it and going, oh, that's just music I dance to, or oh, that's music I would meditate to. It's like, it's a combination of all of it. So your body is very engaged in the process.
Would it be possible for you to give us a taste of it?
I could. Tell me how I would do that.
Just 20 seconds. We could present at the bottom.
Okay.
And let's
All
see if
right,
we
share
can
screen. We're going to try this.
I mean, we're talking 20 to 30 seconds,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. So let me set
That's
the
it.
song up. You keep talking and I will set the song up as you're discussing anything.
Okay. So David told me that he was actually approached by someone who was in the mental health field. And that person was the person who suggested that perhaps this kind of music could be used. And what I understand the Euphorics is doing is it's speaking to the subconscious on lots of different levels.
Correct. Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to share screen here. This is a song called Infinite Pulses. And I just love the natural kind of progression of what's going on in this song. So let's see if I can share screen.
Sure. I heard the music in the background a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, maybe you did. That's wonderful. Maybe we could just have it just go directly. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Yeah. Folks, we're making history here. I can't hear it. We can't hear very much.
Okay, it's blocked my screen. Hold on. Click screen icon in your address bar to allow access. Click the screen icon in your address bar. Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Allowed.
And we might have just lost David. Okay. So what we've seen so far is that the future of music is very much tied in with artificial intelligence. We're seeing that music can be used. Welcome back. It seems like we're not going to be able to do this now, but I will share with folks that we do have the expectation of giving people an opportunity to hear the song that was created from the love poem that my husband wrote me. And it's called With All My Heart, I Am Yours. And how perfect is that for Valentine's Day? So, oh, no. Do it now.
But I'll say it once again. When life gets heavy,
and this was created by AI, folks.
I'll be the love you can hold on to, the words to calm your mind. Every dream you've ever had, I'll help you find in time. With all my heart I am yours, forever and always. Through the storm and the sunshine, I'll be here to stay. You lifted me from the dark, gave me a brand new start. So here's my promise, love. With all my heart, I am yours.
I just love that.
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Okay, and if you are interested in having David create music for you, you're about to see the URL for that on the coming across the Chiron, which is flaresoundscapes.com.
Correct.
And the name of the organization was actually it was renamed to Songscapes, right?
Correct. Correct. We just
Okay.
haven't, right. The name hasn't translated over yet. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. So David, a lot of people talk about the, and there's a lot of fear around AI. In fact, there's a belief that a certain person is interested in getting rid of all the government workers and replacing them with robots. But there's a lot of fear around AI, and you and I share the belief that AI can really help us to work faster, work smarter, and create other opportunities for us to offer services to people, just like you've offered services, all kinds of AI supported services
Right.
now to your clients, right?
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. I think that AI has the capacity. There's always going to be the yin and yang that I'm talking about from that perspective. The problem is when you move into one or the other too far, you tend to be kind of, the word isn't narrow-minded. I think it's more just you're very singular. You've got a singularity that I don't think necessarily you need to have. And so from that perspective, I
Interesting
think
word to use. And the
exactly.
reason that I'm chuckling, everybody, is that Ray Kurzweil wrote a couple of books called "The Singularity is Near" and "The Singularity is Nearer." And chances are people who would be listening to this television program know this, but we'll say it anyway. The singularity is the way that futurists and others talk about a time when robots will basically take over the world,
Hmm.
and when we as humans will no longer be able to do things for ourselves, but the robots will do everything for us. There was a story written about that by one of my very favorite authors in the whole world, E.M. Forster, years and years ago. And it was called The Machine Stops.
Hmm.
And recently, when I did a presentation online, a virtual presentation, I had an opportunity to talk about that just a little bit, because one of the people in the audience said, you really should read this story. And I said, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So that is true. And yet I see, and I think you see, that AI can also help us to be more empathetic. Is that true?
100%. It's actually,
Wow.
well, I'm going to go back to what you just said as far as like people's fear. We get a
Mm.
lot of songs in the radio station that actually have a lot of nihilism in them, a lot of negativity, a lot of depression, a lot of just anti, and you can just call it anti whatever you want. What's really fascinating about that is one of my favorite bands is Indigo Girls. And Indigo Girls has a song in one of their songs, ironically, called The Prince of Darkness, which says, "No one can't convince me we aren't gluttons for our doom." And I wrote an article about this on the Flare site. I wrote it in I put it up on Flare, but it's also up on my publication on Substack. So if anybody
Uh-huh.
wants to go there, that's just rethinkerpub.substack.com. And I talked about how, what if it's not that AI just decides we're irrelevant, but it listens to what we're plugging into the system and decides we're irrelevant? Because we're the ones that are actually inputting. It's not merely that we are just putting in this music and AI is a tool. AI is also a learning organism. And so I think from that standpoint, it is feeding, or it is being fed by what we input into it. And so when you take that line, "No one can't convince me we aren't gluttons for our doom," are we literally putting into this thing not our own demise, but its own conclusions about who we are? So
Mm.
therefore, yes, the robot, and I like Asimov's book, obviously, right? I, Robot. Um, you know, does that become the thing that does? The humanoid side of AI scares me a little bit from that perspective. So especially when it comes to something like that. So what we're trying to do, and this is going to go back to euphorics especially, is we're trying to throw a new code into the system, or a new input into the system of this incredibly positive, incredibly human value aspect of this. You know, and if you look at it from a neuroscientific side of things, right? Whatever your synaptic, whatever actions you engage in furthers that synaptic pathway. And the more you devote to it, the stronger that synaptic pathway becomes. So in the same way, we're trying to create a different synaptic pattern in the AI brain, if you will, that basically is much more positive, that hopefully other people start participating in, and it begins to starve out some of that negativity. So, you know, it's so the empathy side of it is to recognize that there's a lot of good that AI is doing for the sake of people. You know, we have people on our platform that are writing songs now that are blind, and there's no other way for them to perform. You know, there's no other way for them to compose. I have a person on right now who wrote, and we always have on our form, it says, how did you hear about us? Or tell us your story. And this person told me his story, and 20 years ago, he broke his back. He was a guitarist, never been able to pick up the guitar again. AI has now opened him up again to the ability to get into what he loves, and he is thriving off of it, as are so many more people that are, you know, the other side of things, which is just AI is taking away from this, or AI is, you know, disallowing other people to do this. And what I found is, and I wrote an article on this too, it's like, what do you prefer, bitterness or joy? Because I'm going to celebrate those people that are now able to do something they were never able to do. The fact that one of my pieces of art may be on Midjourney, and Midjourney used my art in the creation of something new for someone who is now loving and picked up the paintbrush or the pencil or whatever again, I don't really care. You know, I'm not bitter that it took something of mine to make that happen. I'm actually rejoicing in that fact.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Wow. So, you know, the AI is moving very, very, very quickly, very quickly. So, what do you see as the future for us who are business people to be able to capitalize on AI at higher and higher levels?
Okay, I'll give you the thoughts, and then I'll give you my pitch. So the thoughts are to really get into and embrace things like ChatGPT from the standpoint of everything that it can do. Notebook LM, which you introduced me to, and I thank you for that, is another really good one. And then on the visual side, you've got Midjourney, you've got programs like Kling, you've got programs like Leonardo, and then on the song side, you've got Suno and Udio. Now, that's a lot. That, you know, I couldn't say all that in one breath. What I'm offering, this is my pitch, is consultancy for organizations and individuals that want to come up with the strategy and structure behind what programs to learn, right? And so if you go to just david@purefusionmedia.com and send me an email directly, I will reach out to you and we will set up. So what I do is the first half an hour is just getting to know everything you're doing. And then once we get through that process, then the next half an hour hour is spent telling you what platforms and what programs you need. And then I will train you on each one of those platforms and programs in corresponding consultations. So I will tell you for myself, it has saved me. I have probably saved and made at least $600,000 in the last 2 years, at least, in the utilization of AI platforms. And like I said, I got so fast that I had to, you know, part of my day is spent, prior to that, was spent with my feet up on the table, you know, with the tunes on, just searching for the right image or the right font or the right whatever in stock photo sites and font websites and stuff like that. I don't have to do that anymore. So all that time that I was spent relaxing is gone. So I found myself actually getting to that point where I was like, the adrenaline level was up too high and I had to slow it down. So I just have to get up at certain times in my day. But I'm so hyper productive from, say, 5 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the afternoon that I haven't needed to bring on other people, because it's not that it's taking away from them. Because everybody that I've talked to that was originally working with me in the past, I said, learn this stuff and then I'll just hand it off to you. Well, some of them did and some of them didn't. So some of those people are no longer, doing work that they could have been doing with me. As I said, someone who knows AI might take your job away.
Right. So true. So true. Well, that's kind of where AI is now. But let's look into the future, and let's brainstorm a little bit about where AI might be going in terms of the next level,
Sure.
so to speak.
Absolutely. So I will go back 10 years, and I met a gentleman. We had lunch at a coffee shop in Nashville, Tennessee, and his name's Patrick Larney. So I'm going to give a shout out to this guy that I've only really met once. But he said to me at that time, he was one of Apple, guy who founded Apple. I can't believe I can't remember.
Steve
Steve
Jobs.
Jobs. He was one of Steve Jobs' original 12, what he called geniuses. And
Yep.
so these 12 followed him around like the disciples of Jesus, kind of thing, in a good way. That they were the ones that came up with all the ideas. He was one of those 12. And he said to me 10 years ago, he said, David, he goes, it's going to be amazing when AI launches. 10 years ago. And he said, and it's going to be able to capitalize on all the social media feeds and everything else going on, and realize that cancer in certain areas is caused not because it did a bunch of scientific research, but it looked at the posts of people on social media who had
Oh,
gone to a particular place and correlated all the people that had gone to this place and that had cancer based on their data records, and realized, wow, this area with whatever's going on in the soil or the whatever in this area has caused cancer from those people coming back to wherever they end up living. That to me, and I'll remember that till the end of time. Just the idea of the amount of data that it could collect. What I see is the future is customizable ChatGPTs or customizable GPTs, where people are inputting all of that into the system, and it's building its own little microcosm of individuality that then can be able to reach and go into certain areas like that. And that person, Patrick Larney, could create the GPT that does the very thing he wished to actually have happen. So
we do have customizable GPT
exactly, I just
already.
don't think it's as
Yeah,
broad
you're
as
right.
people. It requires us, right?
It's not as robust as it will be.
Exactly.
Right.
It takes us to recognize the value in it and not the novelty of it per se.
Hmm.
But that there is something there that we really need to learn, that don't just rely on the GPT that it's given. Add to the system, right? Add to the, Jack Johnson says it's a lonely little chain if you don't add to it. So add your place to this and make this a much more robust thing. And I think that's only going to build and fuel the possibility. Obviously, too, humanoid, is coming. I'm sure it's going to be integrated with this, but I look at it more. I'm always on the positive side of what it does for humanity, not what it takes away from humanity. And so I see it
Hmm.
from that perspective, that we can really do a lot of amazing stuff with it.
Well, 10 years ago, we had Baxter, who for $22,000 could do tasks, physical tasks, repetitive physical tasks
Right,
that humans could have done, but then without the coffee breaks or
right,
the pay time off or vacations or whatever.
right.
So we've had humanoid robots uh,
Sure.
that could do just the most elementary of tasks. We've had
Exactly.
that for many years,
Of course.
but we're moving into a time when robots can actually think for themselves. There was a video that I saw of a young girl who stood up at a meeting that Elon Musk had and said, "I want a job with you." And he said, okay, show me that your robot. And she said, I have this robot at home. Show me that your robot can actually do something of value for humanity. And she came back 3 months later, and her robot was able to separate trash into different kinds of recycling. And he offered her a job on the spot.
Wow.
And I just love that, because it shows that we can use automation for good. And we
100%.
can take technology and and mold it in a way, at least at this point we can, in a
Right.
way that can really benefit us and the world at large and society. And if we can do that, we've won with AI, right? I mean,
100%.
that's what AI has the potential to do for us, to give us support. And while we're on the subject, I really, really need to say one thing, and you and I have discussed this, and that is that when you do use AI like ChatGPT or Copilot or Notebook LM, and by the way, Notebook LM will generate an amazing podcast from almost anything that you dump into it. It's really quite valuable in that way. But when there are words that are generated, or even pictures that are generated, it's really vital that what one of my AI mentors, Terry Brock, calls you-eyes it. And that is that you make it your own, and you read it. If it's words, you make sure that those words have your voice,
That's
as
right.
opposed to just the AI's voice.
Right.
It's because otherwise you're going to be there. People are going to see it right away. There's certain words that AIs use that you have to watch out for, and you should Google those and find out what they are so that you don't use them.
Echo, Rust, Gold. Echo especially. There are so many echo lyrics in songs now. It's just unbelievable. Yeah.
But anyway, so it's really important that no matter whether it's a song or an article or some sort of a graphic, you really want to make sure that you eyes it. And I use DALL-E, which is a really simple, it's graphic program. And when I say simple graphic program, I mean it floors me every time I use it, because it can create a picture of the words that I'm dumping in. But I use DALL-E when I'm speaking in Asia to make sure that the faces in the graphics are Asian. If I'm in South America, I want to make sure that the pictures are a reflection of the audience that I am presenting to.
100%.
And that is so important when we use AI to make sure that there is some sort of stamp of you in it, on it. And it's my understanding that if DALL-E creates a visual for you, a graphic for you, and you ask it to tweak it in a particular way, then it becomes not just ChatGPT's DALL-E, but it becomes yours.
Yes, that is the nebulous side of the copyright, conversation. But I do agree with you. Now, what I've found actually with this GPT that we've created for Euphorics, I haven't had to touch these lyrics as much as I've touched other things. I've in many cases I'll change 90% of a song, But what I do love about ChatGPT is it gives me the idea to start with, and then I go, okay, let's modify this, let's modify that. What I found with Euphorics is it really likes this. Like, it really likes writing these positive affirmations that sometimes I'm just blown away at at what it's produced. So from that perspective, I do always want to touch it at least once or twice in whatever it is. But keep in mind from this perspective, and this is where I look at it from, when you create a song in Suno, so that's the music generation side of it. Okay.
Uh-huh.
You have the capacity, the song you choose, let's say you do 20 different versions, right? So it has created 20 different AI versions, but you were the one that decided on the version that you put out into the world. That's
Right.
a personal preference and a personal choice. And so
Right.
that right there is already customized in the conversation, because you're saying this one, not that one, this one is the one that I heard that I think is the one of value, or is the whatever. So yes, it was created by something, but there's a lot of human touch points in the process.
Right. So you were talking about, I'm going to bring you back to the future of AI.
Mm-hmm.
So you were talking about, as we move into the future, we'll have personal GPTs that will do things for us that we need
Or that
them
other
to
people are
do.
going to need, or that, not just, don't think about it from a personal standpoint. Think about it as the ability for somebody over here thinking about how does epigenetics play out when it comes to video games or whatever it ends up being. And so they're devoting all of their time over here, and it's almost its own institution. Somebody else
Mhm.
over here is dealing with how do, we'll say another aspect of video games, like how do video games and the breakdown of and cortisol have to do with something, right? And then those two people come together in this thing, and all of a sudden they realize, oh wow, this is what's building in this particular area. I'm working with a friend, the neuroscientist that's actually part of the whole euphoric side of things, and I had a conversation with him on a podcast, and I called him up a couple days later after he said something to me, and he was talking about how when you are engaged with someone in physical presence, it's an empathetic move, because it's not just that I'm looking at you and we're sharing things and it's responding. Everything in the room is being associated with our brain, and it's building in the empathetic higher regions of the brain, because I'm processing how far away you are, what's going on over here on this side, what chair I'm sitting in, all of that. When you are sitting in a room on a computer and you are bad mouthing people, or you're being a hater, okay, dark room, whatever, you're doing this, it is the lowest form of the brain. You're actually in the amygdala. And so because you're not processing any of that type of stuff, so you've moved from the lower self to the higher, you move from the higher self to the lower self. The problem is that in that position, your brain, in the process of somebody responding to your negativity, floods
Mhm.
with dopamine. So you are
Mm.
rewarding the lowest portion of your brain. You're basically rewarding the animalistic side of who you are, and your body recognizes that and wants to engage in it over and over and over again because of this process, right? Now, that's something I've discovered, but I can do a lot of research on that and build a huge resource of data and information and strategy around that, and present that to the a psychiatrist or a institution or a whatever, because that's something that I did on my own that now they can use and add their data to and do other great things with. So it's that kind of thing. So in fact, 2 days ago we met with a music therapist who's been doing this for 20 years. So she's on a different plane.
Mhm.
And we're trying to figure out how to customize this music to individual patients. And we're excited about this. This is the future, right? To create soundscape therapy that is designed around each person's different mental health, right? And so she said something to me. I jumped on ChatGPT and started writing in this stuff, and it spit out all the information that I needed based on what she said in that micro moment, and that is now in our Euphorics GPT. So it helped in the process of that.
Wow.
So it's astronomical what it can do. The issue
Now.
is now, right? Yeah, exactly.
So
Now.
the question is, how much more is it going to be able to do as we move into the future? I don't know if my mind is capable of wrapping around that
Right.
that vision, actually.
It's a multi-headed vision because it's what does the technology do, what do the people do, and what do the people using the technology do? And that's going to be, so that's why it's not answerable in a very, cogent sort of way, because basically it could be that people just go, you know what, forget it. I'm not going to do anything, and that becomes the future of AI, where people just get lazy, right? Or it could
Well,
be
that's what the machine stops was all about, right?
Right. So, I don't believe that's going to be the case. So it really, to answer the future of AI is to determine the future of us. And how do we respond, and what do we, like I said, I don't like this negative nihilism that's coming out of human beings feeding it into AI. So how do we change the nihilism to something positive? And that's an entirely different conversation that AI can't answer, but we as human beings can. So I think it boils down to the more.
I have an answer to that, by the way.
Okay, go ahead.
The answer is that we have to find a way to help people see that there's greater value in looking at the bright side of life.
Right, 100%.
Versus focusing on the doom and gloom and the negativity and the heaviness and the all of the dark side, basically.
Sure, 100%.
And if we can help people see, because that's how to get anybody to do anything that you want them to do, you have to show them that there's greater value
Absolutely
for them in that action.
That's a neuroscientific reality and a sociological reality, right? It is.
Yes.
You literally have to, you don't defeat something by trying not to do it. You present something else in the process, and the brain goes, oh, that felt really, and as it's rewarded in whatever that is, the brain says, oh, I think I'm going to do that again. Your own body says, let's engage in that again. And it starves off the thing that was going before. That's where we all have to be as human beings, is, present such a winsome, I love the word winsome. Winsome's one of my favorite words, because basically what it means is you can speak or just be a person that other people want to associate with, that they want to hang out with, that they want to spend their time with. I'll say this from this perspective. I had a friend of mine, brilliant man, 23-year-old, most brilliant 23-year-old I've ever spoken to. He was talking about a friend of his, and he said, I just love sharing space with this person. And I loved that statement, because we only have a limited amount of space in that we have the capacity to share. So what space are we sharing with other people, and what space are they sharing with us? And I think that I want to choose very wisely the space that I share. And I use AI to enhance the amount of space I have the capacity to engage in, right? Because I'm not working till 10 o'clock at night. I haven't worked past 6 o'clock on any given day in 3 years since I started using AI. And, I used to work, I know a lot of people, I'm sure, out there right now that are working till midnight and beyond. And,
it's just because they don't know how to use the technology.
Absolutely.
If they knew, they wouldn't. Thank you, David. This has just been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely.
And I look forward to having you back again in 6 months or a year, and we'll talk about what happens next. Where your music is evolving to next, because I know that it's just going to keep going and going and going. Thank you.
Appreciate that very much. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Ron.
How wonderful. Folks, what a wonderful show we had today, and it was really great, but I'm afraid that is all the time we have for today. So it's time for us to start saying our thank yous. And one more time, it's Your Future, featuring American futurist Joyce Gioia, broadcast on Futures Television via Fuji TV. every Tuesday and Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific. You can also find all the show episodes on futi.tv on the video on demand session. Access to the show is always free. You can find futi.tv on Roku TV, Apple TV, and on Fire TV. You can download the app on Google Play and on the Apple App Store. Of course, you can watch the show on futi.tv, our media player. Again, thank you so very much for joining us today. We hope to see you again on the next episode of It's Your Future with Joyce Gioia, and we'll close today with a special song which was created for Joyce. With all my heart, I am yours. Thank you.
I know I said it all before, but I'll say it once again. When life gets heavy and the road seems to bend, I'll be the love you can hold on to, the words to calm your mind. Every dream you've ever had, I'll help you find in time. With all my heart I am yours, forever and always. Through the storm and the sunshine, I'll be here to stay. You lifted me from the dark, gave me a brand new start. So here's my promise, love, with all my heart